This is OwlUp, where learning happens in minutes, not hours. For a deeper journey, explore all our courses at owlup.co. Now, let's dive in. Welcome back to Chapter 4 of Unlock Your Ear, where we're diving into something you've probably felt but never really thought about: how music actually makes you feel things. Today we're exploring the secret ways that melodies, rhythms, and harmonies tap directly into your emotions, and why a minor chord can make you sad even when you're having a great day. Let's get into it. Somewhere right now, a drummer speeds up by just a tiny bit, and an audience's heartbeats quietly speed up with them. No lyrics, no instructions, yet everyone gets the emotion. How does your brain turn raw sound into feelings you can't quite put into words? Across cultures, people who share no language, no history, and no favorite bands can still hear similar emotions in the same piece of music. A fast drum groove feels energized in Rio, in rural Finland, and in a remote village with no streaming service in sight. A slow, fragile melody sounds tender or sad almost everywhere it's been tested. That shared emotional grammar isn't about taste. It's rooted in specific musical features your brain treats as clues: tempo, rhythm, mode, harmony, timbre, and dynamics. Change any one of them and the feeling can tilt dramatically, the way shifting from bright noon light to dusk instantly changes how a street feels. This episode, we'll zoom in on those building blocks, not in theory, but in sounds you can test on yourself, so you can start hearing why a track moves you, not just that it does. Today we'll move from naming those musical clues to noticing how they behave in the wild. Instead of treating emotion in music as a mystery, you'll start spotting patterns. Why that one synth pad makes a chorus feel like sunrise, or why a tiny tempo shift turns tension into relief. We'll lean on concrete, testable details, like how your heart subtly shadows the beat, or how a single darker chord can tint a whole scene. This isn't about theory for its own sake. It's about training your ear the way photographers train their eye, so you can hear emotional intent as clearly as you hear volume or pitch. Open a playlist you love and skip rapidly between 3 tracks. Without thinking, you can probably tell which one feels tense, which one feels nostalgic, which one feels carefree, and you can usually tell within a second or two. That speed is your clue. Your brain isn't waiting for the chorus or the lyrics. It's reading emotional microsignals packed into the first sounds you hear. One of those microsignals is contour, the shape of a melody line. When notes rise step by step and then gently fall, listeners often report hopeful or yearning. Jagged leaps and sudden drops, especially when repeated, skew toward unstable, comic, or dramatic. If you strip away the chords and just hum the outline, the feeling usually survives. Another is spacing in harmony. Keep notes close together and you get a tight, pressurized feel. Spread them far apart and the same chord can feel open, spacious, even lonely. Film composers exploit this constantly. Close voicings in a mid-range cluster for anxiety, widely spaced notes with air in between for awe or isolation. Then there's motion. A static drone under a moving line suggests stillness around inner change. A moving bass with a simple top line flips it, grounding you while the floor subtly shifts. That push-pull between stable and moving parts often matters more than the specific chords themselves. Articulation, how sounds begin and end, adds another layer. Short, percussive hits in a melody can feel playful or aggressive depending on context. Long, blended notes tend to read as sincere or reflective. Producers shape this with envelopes, compression, and reverb, nudging performances toward intimate whisper or distant echo without touching the notes. Even micro-timing, tiny deviations from the grid, carries emotion. A drum part that leans a hair ahead of the beat energizes. One that sits back can feel relaxed or resigned. In groove-based music, these subperceptual shifts often do more emotional work than any lyric. And when multiple elements line up, say, a rising contour, widening harmony, brighter tone, and a hair more forward timing, you get those frisson spikes researchers measure. Not magic, but a stack of small, coordinated pushes all in the same emotional direction, the way a gust, darker clouds, and a sudden temperature drop together announce a coming storm. Think about the last time a song blindsided you with emotion in a totally ordinary setting, like getting choked up in a supermarket because an old track came on. The melody didn't change, but you did. The aisle, the fluorescent lights, the smell of fruit, the memory it hooked onto. Context acts like a color filter on musical cues, shifting how you read the same sounds. Concrete example: take a 4-note motif and drop it into 3 settings. On a dry piano, it feels exposed, almost confessional. Put the exact notes on a distorted guitar with a drum kit, and it becomes defiant. Move it to a solo clarinet in a big hall, and it turns wistful. Same contour, same spacing, completely different emotional titles your brain writes for it. Producers lean on this all the time. An angry vocal can be cooled into resignation just by softening the consonants and letting reverb blur the edges. A string line recorded too neatly can be made fragile by leaving in bow noise and breath. Your ear fills those imperfections with story, the way a reader infers a character's mood from the way a sentence trails off. Heart monitors in hospitals already sing your pulse as beeps. Now imagine devices that quietly adjust their own sonic mood to steady that same pulse during stress, like a trainer matching your pace, then easing you into a cool down. As models learn your personal triggers, what calms, sharpens, or overwhelms you, music could become less like a playlist and more like adaptive weather, rolling in to cool a heated argument or brighten a gray commute, raising tough questions about consent and subtle manipulation. So the real skill isn't just sensing that a track feels sad or pumped, but learning to steer that feeling, like adjusting the lighting in a room until the mood fits. Your challenge this week: notice one moment a day when music shifts your behavior. You walk faster, text someone, pause scrolling. That's your emotional mix knob quietly being turned. This was OwlUp, your daily step forward. This series continues with more chapters on OwlUp.co. Visit OwlUp.co to access the complete course and continue your learning journey. See you there!